the internet's most popular car hacks can cost you more than a dealership visit, and put other drivers at risk. I'm about to prove it with 3 real tests. Experts warn that modern vehicles rely on electronics, sensors, and software resets. Skip one recalibration after brakes, or use the wrong fluid, and a cheap fix becomes a dangerous failure. With 59% of #CarTalk advice flagged as not recommended, we'll run each shortcut, show the hidden damage, and then do it the right way, so you know exactly what to avoid and why. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What happens when a viral clip tells you to push the brake pedal, crack the bleeder, and call it good? No scan tool, no ABS cycle. You get a pedal that feels fine in the driveway and a system that's quietly incomplete. The shortcut appears after a quick caliper swap. A gravity bleed bottle, someone pumping the pedal, and the old amber fluid is reused because it still looks clean. On older cars with simple hydraulics, you might get away with it. On a modern ABS/ESC setup, you've skipped the part that actually clears the hidden chambers. Here's where the false confidence comes from. You press the pedal and it firms up. The car stops at a low speed. You think the air is gone, but the ABS modulator is a maze of valves and a pump with corners that don't flow during a normal bleed. Air pockets sit in those passages until the solenoids open. Without commanding that sequence with a scan tool or following the OEM routine, that trapped air stays put. You also haven't checked brake bias, so left-right balance can drift without showing up in a casual test. Modern modules store tiny bubbles in the accumulator and valve bores that only purge when the pump runs and each solenoid cycles. That's why manufacturers call for pressure bleeding at a set PSI, then activating the ABS bleed function in software. Skip that, and the first time ABS kicks in on a wet road, the air moves, the pedal drops, and your stopping force arrives late. Research on DIY content notes a high rate of not recommended advice, and experts warn that skipping steps in brake work can have massive safety implications. The danger isn't obvious until you need full performance. So we ran a controlled test. 2 identical cars, both with a front caliper service. One got the shortcut bleed, the other got a pressure bleed, and an ABS cycle per procedure. From 60 miles per hour, the shortcut car needed extra feet to stop, and it tugged to the right under hard pressure. The properly bled car stopped straight with consistent pedal height across runs. The data matched what the pedal told you only under real load. There's more riding on brake work than lines and pads. Many cars require a steering angle sensor check or a stability control relearn after hydraulic service. Skipping those can hide faults or delay intervention from systems designed to keep you in control. That's how a car feels fine until speed and panic collide. We also logged a case from a viewer who said the pedal got soft again after a week. Classic air migration into the ABS unit after a driveway bleed. The fix was the full routine. Correct DOT fluid to spec. A pressure bleeder set to the recommended pressure, ABS cycling with a scan tool, and a road test with a brake balance check while monitoring for codes. Pay for the procedure now, or pay later when an overworked ABS pump eats itself trying to push bubbles. If skipping one scan sequence can compromise stopping, what happens when a cheap fluid swap touches the transmission? If fluid chemistry can cripple stopping power, what happens when a video tells you one universal fluid can cover engine oil and transmission needs? You've seen the clips. Someone pours thicker engine oil to quiet a tick, then claims a few ounces of engine oil or a magic additive in a slipping automatic will restore pressure. On the driveway, the idle quiets down. The gear engagement feels less harsh when backing out. It sells the illusion that thickness equals protection, and that more viscosity means more grip inside the gearbox. That shortcut ignores what makes a transmission work. Automatic transmission fluid, and especially DCT or CVT fluids, carry exact friction modifiers that control how clutch packs grab and release. The valve body and solenoids meter fluid through tiny passages that rely on the right viscosity at a given temperature. Get the chemistry wrong and you change how those clutches bite. You get shudder on takeoff, glazing on the friction surfaces, delayed upshifts, and lazy lockup. The adaptive strategy starts chasing slip it can't cure because the base fluid behavior is off. Drive.com.au reports that a staggering 90% of car repair videos on social media platforms should not be attempted by inexperienced mechanics. That stat matters here because transmissions are not generic. The unit in the clip may not match yours, and the fill procedure, level check, and fluid spec vary by model, production date, and even software revision. Pouring in the wrong stuff might reduce a noise at idle, yet destabilize shift timing once the pump builds pressure and the gearbox sees load on the road. Think of it like using dish soap in a dishwasher. The foam looks clean, the plates look glossy, and then the kitchen floods because the machine wasn't designed for that sud's profile. The wrong fluid can quiet a symptom in neutral, but once you add torque, heat, and repeated shifts, the damage starts. Friction materials glaze over, seals harden, and tiny bits of clutch pack end up in passages that should stay clean. We ran a controlled test on 2 identical cars with the same mileage. One got a wrong fluid top-up, the other received an OEM spec service, with a new filter and the exact fill quantity. Then, we logged transmission temperatures and shift times using a scan tool. The wrong fluid car ran hotter on the same route, showed longer shift times under moderate throttle, and triggered adaptive corrections that grew with heat soak. The serviced car hit target temps, executed crisp shifts, and didn't throw adaptation errors. The real cost shows up fast. A $5 additive can end with burned clutches, TCM codes, limp mode, and a bill that starts around $5,000 for a rebuild or replacement. The correct path is boring and precise. Check the fluid spec by VIN, service with the exact fluid and quantity, reset adaptations with a scan tool, and drive through the shift map while monitoring temps and gear changes. Do that, and shift quality and temperature control return to baseline. If fluid chemistry can total a gearbox, what about hacks that tell you to bypass sensors entirely? If a $2 resistor can turn off a warning light, why do automakers spend millions on calibration rigs, targets, and software? Because those lights point to systems that measure and correct in millimeters and milliseconds, and a fake fix deletes the very information that keeps you on the road when things get messy. You've seen the hacks. O2 sensor cheaters are spaced out of the exhaust stream to hide a bad catalyst, clearing an airbag light without replacing a blown seatbelt pretensioner, tape or a phone mount, covering an ADAS camera after a windshield swap because the lane lines still show up. The dash goes dark. No more beeps or amber icons. On a short drive, the car feels normal. That's the trap. Safety and emission systems can degrade quietly and only show their failure at speed, in rain, or when something darts into your lane. Modern cars stack radar behind the grille, cameras at the windshield, and ultrasonic sensors in bumpers. Any windshield, bumper, or suspension work can nudge those sensors by a few degrees. That small shift moves detection zones far down the road. A radar aimed slightly outward sees a phantom lane. A camera tilted low reads the asphalt too close and delays lane keeping. Skipping the alignment and calibration steps doesn't just reduce accuracy, it rewrites where the car thinks the world is. Stuart Charity of the Australian Automotive Aftermarket Association warns that oversimplifying complex repairs like ADAS calibrations can have massive safety implications. He notes that small mistakes and incorrect calibrations can lead to inaccurate readings, delayed reactions, and a higher chance of accidents. That isn't a theory. It shows up on the test track when we introduce a controlled misalignment. We pulled the windshield camera a hair out of spec, then ran lane keeping at city speeds, and again on the highway. In town, the steering nudge arrived late, but still caught the drift before the center line. At 65, the car wandered half a lane before the system woke up. It felt fine on side streets. It was not fine where it mattered. Emissions hacks carry their own bill. An O2 bypass kills fuel trim accuracy, so the ECU runs richer than it should. That extra fuel overheats and poisons the catalyst. The car may pass a quick sniff in the driveway, then fail inspection, and cook a $1,000 converter months later. The warning light you hid turns into a code stack, a fouled exhaust, and a bigger repair. With 59% of videos not recommended, the pattern is clear. A quick fix turns off a symptom and trades it for real risk to you, your passengers, and everyone around you.